Good morning, everyone. Now, this morning, I'm going to be exploring Pinterest. One of my clients, Janine, has been asking me about a few things about Pinterest. So what I decided to do, obviously, usually on a Wednesday, I try and do as many lives. Sometimes it's for the Spiritual Marketing Club membership, and some of it is free lives for those of you in the group, or for, just generally for people that are interested in marketing their business in a more kind of spiritual way. And the reason that I suggest to people that Pinterest can be a really good way to get traffic to your business is that in many ways, Pinterest is an underused platform for many in the holistic and spiritual sector, okay? And one of the things that's really, really important when you are building a business is to utilize the best type of platforms that's going to be aligned with your business. Hello, Janine. So basically, when you are building a business and you are thinking about your marketing and advertising, it's so important to choose wisely the platforms that are going to best serve your needs. And every single person is individual in relation to the products and services they sell and who is their ideal audience. And one of the things that I think is really, really good for why I think Pinterest is very useful for many people in the spiritual sector is that there's many females. Pinterest is one of those things that a lot of people go on for hobbies and activities. It's very based on aesthetics. It's used by crafters, artists, and many spiritual people. And Pinterest, if I can get you to think about how Pinterest started, mostly Pinterest started with people creating pins of ideas or creative ideas, imagery. So it was used maybe to give people ideas to create something, or people were needle workers, artists, because what happens, you can create all these it's like on a board, you can pin lots of images so it can give you great ideas. So a lot of people that are web designers, logo designers, brand experts, as I said, artists, sculptors, people that are in lots of creative activities use it. And also it has evolved from then. And it's moved into that many people can share, their blogs, particularly blogs, because how you create, the way that the Pinterest mostly works is that you create a nice visual pin, a long tail pin. I'll explain that first and then I'll talk a wee bit about Reels, but I'm going to talk about mostly long tail pins, right? So long tail pins are basically like a very aesthetic image that is linked to your blog. And one of the things that I would say is blogs is the biggest thing that Pinterest feeds off, because it's images and information, right? And if you utilize it the right way, it increases your SEO reach for your website, right? And if you're really serious about your business and committed to your business, if you have high quality blogs on your site and you create long tail pins on your posts and you use Pinterest effectively, you can get quite a lot of traffic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to share that. I'm going to show you some of my pages. Now, I'm going to be honest, because I've been so busy the last 3-4 months, I have not been utilizing Pinterest normally the way that I would. I actually also have an account with Tailwind, a professional account, which actually schedules posts to Tailwind for me. It's a paid package, and I do pay a lot of money for it, but I've just again been so busy I've not been able to utilize it as much as what I normally do. So my rankings went down a little bit, but it is still useful even if you have a free account, and I'm going to show you some of that. But before I go any further, I'm just going to see, Janine, is there any, I know this is an exploring session, but is there anything specifically that you want me to focus on in this session?
How to get more followings and audience on Pinterest.
Okay, so first of all, before we even think about that, we have to get to learn how to use it properly, right? So one of the things that happens, I've found a lot of people come onto Pinterest and they just want to get the customers or get the followers, but if they don't understand what Pinterest is and how it really works and how you maximize your reach, what you can be doing is going on and doing a lot of things that actually can repel your audience or lower your audience and even get you banned from boards, right? So what I'm going to do is just show you my Spiritual Marketing Club Pinterest account, explain some of it so you can see it visually to help you understand, right? And to get a feel. So if you can see this, this is a Spiritual Marketing Club so I get 7,000, well, nearly 8,000 monthly views. Now that's actually quite low for me. And that's just because I've not been doing as much work. But as you can see, these are all what they call, this is like boards. So each of these, see if I'm going to just take it, I'll take it down a row at a time. So these are all boards, and what happens is you save onto board, you create boards. So the best way to do it is when you create an account with Pinterest is start creating boards of interest, right, and relatable to your business. So for example, Janine, you could have one board that was like intuitive art, right? You could have one board that was maybe list, you know, like Akashic Masters or something, isn't it? People may be interested in your audience. You could have a board about light workers or healers, right? You could have a board about creative art, creative expression, right? The key here is just like any other platform, first of all, it's very different one way, but like everything, you have to approach it from the beginning. Who's your ideal audience? And what are they most interested in? Now, even if you have two ideal audiences, right, you can still use the same board, because the thing about Pinterest, it's a bit different from Facebook. So I share a lot more things on the Spiritual Marketing Club Pinterest I wouldn't share on my main page. For example, I have, if you can see here, I have a board all about garden landscapes, right? And it was to give me ideas for my garden, right? I've lots of things that are related to maybe projects I'm doing. So I save things because maybe it gives me ideas or something I want to remember, because I'm a very visual person. So I love Pinterest, and visuals help me. I sometimes have challenges with remembering things, so it's visuals that help me remember, but it also keeps me focused, right? So we're all different, but what you've got to understand is 70% or roughly about 70% of people are visual, right? And no matter if we like it or not, aesthetics and visuals are what people triggers people to click through something, and something that's very aesthetically pleasing, someone is more likely to click through than something that's not. Also, if you create a pin that is very clear what that pin is, again, you're going to get a click through. Now, what you might see on my first line of boards on Pinterest is it might just seem a bit of a mash, but that's just because what's appearing up, you can actually swap them all about, right? And again, it's just because I've added a couple of things, but I've not been managing it very well. But I'm going to show you what you would want most of your boards to look like. So let's look at even this freebie one, right? So this is a new one that I put up recently, and it's not an old board. And what I've done is I've actually, in this one, I have added videos, but videos are actually not the main thing you would normally put on Pinterest, right? But if you want to make sure that it has what's the name for these again? I forgot the name for these. A thumbnail. A thumbnail that tells you what it is. You don't want just a picture of you, because that doesn't say anything. It's not appealing for somebody to click through, no matter how beautiful you look. That's not what people are looking. People are looking for the solution and something in colours and something that's going to inspire them. So that's why a good brand, a strong brand, can really help you with Pinterest, right? So the reason that I've recently been up, so normally you wouldn't see, this would be a mixture of videos and pins. And as I said, I don't most of my boards don't have videos on, because you would mostly have pins on most boards. You can have, you could have a couple and say, I've got about, I think it's about 30 boards. You don't need 30 boards, you could have about 3 or 4 or 5. But in the relation to the amount that I have, it's okay to have maybe 2 boards that had videos and the rest all pins. And the only reason I've done it is just to help the algorithms, but also for anyone who comes on to Pinterest, going through my stuff, if they want to go and find my video section or certain sections, they can click through, right? But what you should always start to build Pinterest on is your blogs first, because they're rich keywords, right? Now, even if you don't have a blog at the moment, but you create one really good blog, you want to get that as one of the first things that you have in Pinterest. And I'll explain that a little bit later, but I'm just going to go back and show you another board that probably is a better board to show you. For some reason it's not. I'll go back to this. Oh, this is my other board. Sorry, for some reason let's go back to this. So I'm going to do is show you one that's got lots of pins on it. Maybe we go a wee bit older. Let's look at branding and marketing. So this is a board. Now, normally you can put a description and everything on that as well, right? Now, what I've done is just use this board to save pins that I'm interested in about brand and marketing, but also to share my blogs about branding in relation to marketing, right? So again, as you can see, all of these are what we call long tail pins. So long tail pins, as you can see, they're long, they have clear information, and they're aesthetically pleasing. And they make it very easy for people to be able to see what exactly that pin is about. And that pin would normally directly link to a blog, right? And this is the key, and it's a great reminder that blogs should solve a problem, right? And be a topic that people are really interested in. So basically, when you click, so I'm going to, you're clicking that and it's taking you to a blog, right? So when you click this, it will take you over to your site or whatever, and it gives you that. Now, what the biggest mistake is, many people make mistakes, they just try and promote, first of all, they don't do any nurturing, they just try and put products and services. If you do that, you're less likely to get people to share. What you want in Pinterest is other people to share your pins and put your pins on their boards, particularly group boards, right? And that's the whole point. It's like social media. And I think this is one of the things why we're talking about this, is one of the interesting things. A lot of people in businesses, they don't utilize social media, they don't share, they just share their own stuff and don't understand that it's all about the sharing, and it's the mutual sharing of resources that our audience are going to find beneficial. And what I do is, which I'm going to go back and show you this, in my boards and my account, I have a mixture of boards. Some are just my boards that, you know, nobody else can post on them. And there is some other boards that I invite people onto so they can share their pins, right? Some of them I make sure I have instructions on it, rules on it, so that people don't break the rules. And I'm going to explain why. So this is a newer account, but I have a really old Pinterest account with my stress coach training one. And some women just, I hadn't been on the stress coach training for a couple of months, and this was about maybe last year. And I didn't know that this person had just started posting anything and everything on my board. She didn't watch, she didn't read the rules, she didn't. And my reach went down by thousands, right? Because she'd lowered my reach because the quality of the board, by doing what she'd done, she lowered the quality of my board. It wasn't aesthetically pleasing anymore. And it just looked like somebody was just posting any old rubbish. She wouldn't have seen it, but that's what appeared. Now, one of the things that I get is a lot of people saying, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I didn't know how to use this. But it's like everything. It's really important when you go on your platform that you understand what the platform is. What is it for? What's it mostly for? What did it start? And when you can understand that, it helps you utilize the platform better and approach it. So if we think about Pinterest was a way for people to collect ideas, right? And a way to share information and a nice pencil. For example, one of the biggest things it was first used for, if you think about people who were into sewing, and a lot of the Americans were into it, they were very into crafts, right? So their pins would link to blogs about maybe embroidery, about wool, about fabrics. Now, I'm not saying it's evolved since then, but the main thing is it sends people, it sends traffic to your pages. Now, the reason why I said to create a blog first and to create a pin for it, a long tail pin, and send it is blogs, if done effectively, and if they're rich in keywords that your audience would be looking for or interested in, that link that you have with that pin to your blog helps. The more that you've got rich content in that blog, right, it helps your traffic. Right, it's all about quality traffic, because the algorithms and the little bots and things from, you know, from Google, Yahoo, and all these different search engines, they pick up that pin is going to rich content. Now, the more links that you have in your blogs and your sites, again, are little links and little bots, right? The more blogs that you have in your site that is really good quality content related to, you know, that people find valuable, again, what happens, this is a simplified version, it raises the organic reach. One mistake people can make is they only share blogs that they would be interested in, or they want to share loads of things about their own personal story. And even though you might find that, yeah, some people find it interesting, it might not be what most people are interested in, or it's not relatable to their problem, and it's not kind of, I know this maybe sounds, I don't really know the right word, but juicy enough for someone to click through, to find valuable. And like any social media platform, it's busy. It's busy in a different way. You don't have fast feeds, which is not like that. Most people search for things or come across things, but you want to stand out. And the more that you understand your audience's needs and exactly what the problem is and what they would be looking for, the more likely you are to be found. And there's lots of tricks and you know, things that I can also, if you wanted to book a one-to-one session with me to explore how you can maximize that as an individual business owner. There's lots of things you can do to help increase that reach. But what I'm going to do is explore with Janine, because Janine is a creative. And Janine, just for the groups, and for this video, you share a little bit about your business, who your ideal audiences are, and what you know, what problems you solve?
Well, I've been my main focus has been on spirit art, but I'm also diversing to more like art for like de-stressing, calming, connecting to the intuition, which is still relatable to the spirit art because
Yeah.
in order to connect with spirits, you have to be receptive and calm, stress-free type of thing, really. So yeah, I'm gearing my work particularly to people who are sort of struggling to connect with their intuition, maybe carers or people who perhaps feeling isolated because of ill health, like chronic disease, illnesses. People who are feeling lost or disconnected with their intuition, and wanting guidance.
Okay, cool.
So
All fabulous. You gave me a lot of, you know, key things here. What would you say is, for example, what would be the rough age of your audience?
around about say 30s to 50.
Okay, and I'm presuming it's mostly female, or am I wrong?
Female, yeah, sorry, yeah, got to mention that.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fine. No, that's fine. So, first of all, this is a key platform for predominantly a lot of females, a lot of crafters and things like that. So they may already be into craft, right? Just to give you a kind of, right? But that doesn't mean that other people won't come across that. A lot of young people are starting to get into Pinterest because it's almost like see how Instagram's very aesthetic, but Instagram is very materialist, like an aesthetic, if that makes sense. I know it's slightly changing now, but if we still look that there's a big trend in the modern day life for everything being to be so aesthetically pleasing. Sometimes I suppose it goes off the chart, right? But because of its, you know, that it's more aesthetically pleasing, a lot of more young people are getting attracted to and using Pinterest, right? So that's a really useful thing. What I would say is a lot of people with chronic health, you've hit on something. So this is sometimes, and this is why I'm exploring this with Janine, because I want you to understand where I'm coming from. But as Janine says, you know, one of her audiences could be people that are suffering from chronic health challenges or a carer. Now, if you look at the chronic health challenges, so for example, people that are maybe ill and not able to work, but they're looking for a hobby, right? Or they're just looking to look for inspiration and ideas. Pinterest is really good because it's not like Facebook and Twitter, right? It's different from that, even LinkedIn, where there's lots of fast feeds. It's a wee bit different. So, you know, you can go on and you're not getting this, you know, it's not like fast amount of information going quickly through or anything like that. Do you understand? It's not jumping or anything, right? It's not the same sort of thing. So for people that want something more calm and relaxing to go on and pin and look for ideas, it's really good. Now, lots of people who've got chronic health challenges actually have blogs on Pinterest, right? Lots of chronic health. So there's boards and things with people with chronic health. So for somebody like Janine, these are key topics. So you've just mentioned a few things, right? So you've mentioned carers, you've mentioned chronic health challenges, you've mentioned your psychic art, and you've met, you know, things to people calm, more like hobbies and, you know, arts and crafts type things. I know that that's what you're doing, right? So they're all boards that you could have. And you might think, well, why would have a board about chronic health conditions? Because guess what? Someone may come across your board and then like your page and see all your other boards, right? But you could start writing blogs about why a hobby is really useful for whatever. Now, if you have personal experience of a health condition or a mental health condition or whatever, or something spiritually, like a spiritual crisis, writing blogs about that again are another way to get traffic, right? So it's not just about, this is a wee bit, this is where you can have a wee bit more wider subjects with Pinterest. But you also could have a board that was like your psychic art or other people's. So where other people can share their, it might not be just psychic art, it could be any, it could be artists that have got chronic health challenges. You give them a board that everybody can share. But what the rules on it is that if they are going to share something in your board, that's what you normally do in a board, a group board, they have to share your content. And this is where mutual exchange works. And that's how Pinterest grows, because when someone else shares your pins to another board of theirs and gets, more traffic, it can really work. And if you create some long tail pins and some boards, you then can go and join other groups. Now, what a lot of people will not let you join right away until you've got, I get lots of requests in some of my groups for people to join, but the problem is most of the time I go and they've not really got any content to really tell me, are they really aligned with what I'm doing? And I don't know if they're just starting out. They might have one board that is a certain subject, but guess what? That might not end up being what it's about. So you want to have, if you're opening boards up for other people, you want to make sure that you're opening them up to people that are going to not abuse your group, follow the rules and play the game. So does that explain, Janine, a kind of overreach of how to you? Is there anything you want to ask me so far about, the whole concept of how it works?
Yes. I need
Okay.
to know how it all works properly.
Yeah. So when you can understand that it's like, that's how the whole system works. The key is, obviously, you have to open an account. Okay, so you open an account. Sometimes it's playing about with it just to get a feel, right? And then what you do is you start creating boards for pins, right? Now, what can be a good idea is, if you don't have blogs and you don't have content, or you have very limited blogs, is create 4 or 5 different boards, right? And it doesn't have to be for other people yet, but you can start saving content that interests you. Okay, so look, even for something that's a hobby, like I've added garden landscape. Now, what's her name? I'm trying to think. There's an American. She's an absolute Pinterest whiz, and I can't even remember her name. She's a big social media. She's classed as one of the top, media kind of influencers, and she always says that you should have a board that has some interest that you're in, and particularly one that would be a common denominator with your audience. So your audience, Janine, may want to be more intuitive and be drawn to that, but but at the moment they're fascinated by certain things, intuition, spirituality, but they feel it's an area they want to evolve. So again, the more that you save certain things, that can draw people in to find, especially when it's good quality content and when the pins are very easy for them to see. Now, I have to be honest on this board, because this is a working board. So the difference that my Spiritual Marketing Club board is compared to, for example, my World of Health board or my Stress Coach Training board, is that as a marketer and someone that's teaching marketing, I use this for projects as well. So mine's like a working board, because when I'm working with clients, sometimes I have to, because I work with 12 archetypes, when I'm working with branding with clients, they're all different. And you can imagine in the spiritual and holistic sector, everybody works very differently, see things differently. They all have different levels of awakening, awareness, insight. So they see things differently. So I need to be able to try and help my clients maybe understand concepts that they've never really explored before. So this is how I use. So I have things that might not mean anything to use, but it's for what I do. So other than mine being one that promotes my content, it's actually a work. I use it to help the creative process with my clients, right? So I do use it slightly different than probably what you would do. Janine, you might you might use it a wee bit like what I'm doing, because, for example, if you had one-to-one clients that want to be more creative and more intuitive, you could have a board that they could get ideas from and invite them to that board and let them share, explore ideas. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I was just looking at your pins and I've noticed the landscape, and I've done some of the portrait. Does it really matter, or is it better to have a landscape?
You need to have them. Yeah, you mean like the long, because it's long and like
Yeah.
the shapes. Yes. It's supposed to be a certain size. I can't remember what the size is now, Janine. You can look it up. Canva. So on Canva, it'll tell you.
Oh,
exactly
yeah, I've done. Well, I've made pins, but I've done them portrait wise rather than landscape. They're the right shape, the right size, because I've made sure the Pinterest pin, you know, for making Pinterest pins. But it was just I've noticed that the portrait rather than landscape, like you've got them as a landscape here.
I'm not really sure. Oh, you mean these ones?
Yeah.
No, that's not. It's not me that's done that. It's the way that it comes out in the, right. So see if you click on this, right? These are not. These are actually just images I've shared. I've not created these pins. These have been somebody else's pins for starters. These ones. Right, to show you. Right.
Oh,
it's the way
these are the boards.
Yes, these are the boards.
Oh, sorry.
I'll show you the pins. No, right. So they're the
That's
boards.
A good start.
No, I know, of course, don't worry. No. So it's a good point. So this is so everybody understands each one of these sections represents a board.
Yeah.
Now, see this one, what happens? Pinterest picks the image and just puts it, it only takes a bit of the pin to show in this main one. But when you click on it, now this will not be a proper pin because this was just images that I've for my garden. It wasn't to do you understand what I'm saying? But most of them have tried to create them as pin. But if you click on them, of course, that's going to have a different landscape look. But if you go back, obviously it's picking, it's drawn, it's only taking a bit of the picture. It's just so the way that Pinterest is coming up on the viewer, Janine. But if you actually click it, let's go back. So if you look at some of these, right, these are mostly pins, right? This is a board. If we look at the top, there's one, I think I've saved that in the wrong place. That was supposed to be somewhere else, but you can see these are all pins.
Oh yeah, right? That's right then, yeah. Okay.
Yep. So if you see this one, the way this person's done it, this is really good. This is good branding, right? This is good, very clear what the pin is about, and it's easy for someone to see, right? Now, she's able to do that the way her colours and that is well done. So that gives you ideas that's easy for someone to see the way that that's done. I struggle with because of my colours with the pale pink and the colours. It's not a strong contrast, right? Just to do with my archetype. But if you can, I know, Janine, you can choose to have stronger colours because of your brand, right? So you could have, something quite strong that would stand out, right? And it's easy for people to see. Now, you can see even there's some really long pins, right? So that's an example of quite a long pin, and there's some even that are longer than that. But your minimum is this size, but I would always try and go for the longer ones because they actually, Pinterest prefer them. Now, there is reels, and I don't really want to go into reels too much because I have to be honest, I am not an expert in reels, right? But what I would say is if you have the traditional pins on your blogs, right, it's easy for people to pin. The only thing about some of the reels is it's like mini videos you're clicking through, and young people prefer that, but a lot of people, it's just easy for them just to see exactly. So yeah, if they want to click and see whatever, but say it's something that's dead obvious what it is, right? You're seeing, like, for example, I mean, that's clever the way they've done that, because what they've done is they've used it as an infographic, and that's another thing you can do. I have a lot of infographics on my blogs, and infographics are great for social media and they're great for Pinterest. So the great thing about an infographic, it tends to be long. It might not be the exact size of Pinterest, but it will be accepted by most boards because it's long. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
So how do you make a long pin then?
So So like the infographic, you mean?
Well, any sort of long pin that you've just been showing
The
me.
size, well, right, so all
I know
these,
it's
the
the
sizes
traditional
are all
size,
on.
but you're saying long pins. Are they
Yeah,
bigger
so
than
the
the?
long, so Canva should have a long tail. They should have different sizes somewhere, Janine, on Canva. But you can look it up. I always, what I do, see, like, normally when I would be doing a webinar like this, it's just because we've done this kind of last minute thing, but I would go and check, was there any changes in recommended sizes and what's the longest thing? But all you would just do is, so whatever width and size is that the normal long tail pin is, say that you would want to create a bigger infographic, you would just make sure that the proportion was longer in length. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But a lot of infographic sizes on Canva, there's lots of infographics already available that you can adapt to your own infographic, right?
So you mean
Which
like
is
a
really good. I mean,
template? Just using a
yes,
template. Yeah. Right.
yes. I started doing that because I used to have to create all mine on my own, and then I couldn't believe nowadays in Canva they've got so much stuff that there's lots of things that you don't need to start from scratch. You can take some of it away, change the colours, change the fonts, maybe redesign it a little bit, but there's already a template there for you, right? So the sizing's right, the spacing's right. So you can do that. But what I would say is don't jump to that right away. Get your pins, get some long tail pins, and your long tail pins is they'll tell you on Canva what it is. And basically what you do is, and what I would say, because I know you've already got blogs, Janine, what you would want to do is, in fact, remember when you did a guest blog for me for the Spiritual Marketing Club, and I created a long tail pin. Well, was it a long tail? I think it was the longest one at that time. I think they've got a wee bit longer. But I created a pin on that blog for you. And the reason I created that pin, because I knew if someone was on Pinterest and wanted to save your post or save your images, all they needed to do was save on that pin, right? Yeah. So again, that would be, there's a pin already you've got with your content, so you could save that somewhere. So what I would suggest to you is, I know some people don't like the look of it, I have to be honest, adding pins to blogs. There is some, so if you were a business leadership coach, right? Depending on how your pin would look, it might be harder to line up and make it really aesthetic, and really, it might just take the edge off that, if somebody was more a business leadership coach. I can go off with the pins in relation to my marketing, and I can go off with most things, but I have to say sometimes the lineup, I produce lots of content, right? And I don't always have the time to sit and make everything aesthetically. I can do the imagery, I'm quite good at making aesthetics right, but actually getting the blog to look, and the lineup maybe not great, but the thing I know is that a lot of people invest in me because of the value and the depth of content I give. So that's my biggest selling point. Every business is different, right? So people will save my content, and because I know I got most of my paying clients from like search engines. So people that really want to invest in and really invested in their business, I tend to get them through that. Right. So you've got to understand your business, what your audience is going to be interested. But for somebody like you, Janine, again, you're a creative person. People are going to be a bit more interested in creative expression than it being so perfectionist. Does that make sense? So you would be able to do what I've done with the Spiritual Marketing Club.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like everything. Social media, you want to approach it like a plan of action. Now, I'm always about, using a mixture of what you're being guided to do, and obviously still bringing a bit of reality and logic into, doing things that are going to really help your business, right? It's key that it's like everything, no matter how intuitive that you want to do things, if you don't understand how something works, you may miss something and perceive something differently. But if you can understand why people use Pinterest and why, if you've already created content on a blog, you always want to maximize by sharing that content as many platforms as you can. And Pinterest is a great way to boost your search engine optimization, right? And that's why I do think that it's a really valuable tool for so many holistic businesses, spiritual businesses, and particularly creative spiritual businesses that is getting underutilized. Also, what I would say is, like, say if you look at things like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even though people can find your content even a year or 2 years down the line, it's something you've produced, they're more likely to find old content on SEO in this than, do you understand? Because a lot of it's, so if you think about Twitter, Twitter is so fast that
I don't tend
the
to
content
use,
is, well, Twitter is very like disposable. Does that make sense? It's almost like, to me, it reminds me like fashion that's dead disposable, right? It can go out there, it could sell fast, or it can be seen fast, but it can disappear, right? I do not, and I think lots of businesses build their business on that. They just put up posts to sell right now, and they're coming from fear. They're coming from lack. They're not approaching their business. And of course you've still got to be in the moment in your business and whatever. But a business is a long-term investment. It's not a short-term investment. And what makes a healthy business different from an unhealthy business is when someone is just using their energy just to get money right now, they often waste a lot of energy on sources that actually is not going to recoup them money. Where if you are more wiser in anything that you do, you know that it's not just, it's going to help you more in the long run. So you may invest a little bit, for example, so by creating a pin and a blog, I know somebody, I can't remember who it was, an admin, it was doing, saying, why do you bother putting those pins? And I says, because the long term, yeah, it might take me another 5 minutes or 10 minutes to create that and get it up on it. But I know in the long run, that could increase my reach by 10, 20, 100 times. So me putting that little bit more effort into it and doing it the right way. And it's the same by understanding the platform that you're using. So if you understand Pinterest, what it really is, right? And you get the basics right, and you plan it out, you're going to make money in the long run. But what most people do is just focus on now and then do strategies that actually can, like that woman just posting. I had to then, she actually, I gave her a, what you would call a warning. She done it again because she wasn't, I think she just didn't see how serious, and I had to explain her, when you've actually now lowered my reach really badly. So that, and I also, not done it for a while, but I used to spend advertising on Pinterest. So that was, you know, money that I had invested in. And that woman was piggybacking on my pages for all the work that I had done, but she was not respecting and valuing, even though I explained to her. She didn't understand how, you know, so she was coming from just a place of just trying to get some sales. But if you plan out and you use Pinterest in an effective way, it's a really good platform that you could also, particularly for you, Janine, that could be is what I've suggested, you know, like, so if you're running these free, you know, you run your wee free live event. Now, anyone that's coming onto that or coming on your paid programs, they could be part of your Pinterest community, because the type of audience that you will have will love Pinterest, right? They can help you grow your business because they are more likely to share your pins and get involved in your groups. And that's why somebody like you particularly could really maximize Pinterest. Also, one of the things about Pinterest is that a lot of people get a lot more leverage out of Pinterest without, I'm not saying, I do still think some, you know, if you can, there's certain types of advertising. Some of Pinterest ads, right enough, it's a hit or a miss, but it's like everything, unless you know what you're doing. But what I mean is, most people struggle to get, it depends on what you're selling. It does depend on what you're selling and lots of other factors. But most people now really struggle to bring in a really healthy income in their holistic and spiritual business, you know, without having to do lots and lots of work on social media, right? This can convert a lot better when you know how to use it. And it can be not as if you think about like how many times you're expected to post in, for example, Facebook every week to get the miniest. I mean, I was just showing one of my friends. So one of my pages, I've got nearly 3,000 people, and the average amount of people that Facebook is showing that post is only 15 people out of 3,000 followers, right? Now, I know these ones don't look as if much because these are all just recent ones, but there is on my stress coach training, I've got some pins, I think they've got, you know, with 1,000 click-throughs, right? And the click-through rate and saves, what I think can be a lot higher than what Facebook is. So, but you're mostly wanting it also for SEO. Now, some people say to me, oh, but I would never search Google or I search for certain things. The reality is the people that pay me are the people that search. A lot of people that I get in social media, and this is just a reality check, right? A lot of people I get and even join my groups through Facebook are not always the people that pay me. It's the people that actually do this, it find me looking for me, right? Through a search. So I'm not saying everybody's audience is like that, but the more you understand your audience, you understand why they're coming to you. So I think the thing about someone who's ready to invest, and they will just go looking for someone, they're ready to, and they're going, and one of the things that some of my students have said to me, my stress coach training, and one student said to me a couple of years ago, I looked up looking for the kind of course you offered, Eileen, and it was only your name kept coming up on every page. That's good SEO, right? So I was ranking really high for the keywords in the training that I was offering. So much so that I was kind of overspilling. Do you understand? Now, I'm not saying every industry, that was a niche area, but if you can do that, you're winning, and that's what it's all about. So, Janine, anything else in relation to what I'm saying? Anything I've missed?
I'm just thinking now, should I start again? There's some boards that I've got up, but I'm thinking, are they any use? I'm just wondering whether just pull them all back and just start from scratch. What
you can do is keep the boards, but you can delete some of the pins, right? You can always change the words on the boards or whatever, or tweak the boards, or keep the boards, add more boards, and focus on other boards, and delete anything that you think may, what I've done in the past, right? As I've learned more and more, and as I've felt like, so as I've improved in my branding or changed my branding, what I've done is I've went through and thought, right, what boards are getting engagement, what are not, what can I delete that looks a bit scammy or not really, that it's maybe not giving the right impression that I want. And you can do that. So, you know, you can play about with it. You know, if you were going long term and you had a lot of traffic, you may not want to delete a full board, for example, right? Because that's getting you traffic. You might just want to tweak certain things on it. And maybe you might not want to tweak whatever's still giving you the traffic. For example, I was listening to a coach the other day, and it was quite funny, and I could sympathize with her. She was talking about how she's really high end, and what she does is very high end now. And she was talking about how she cringed when she looks back at her videos before on YouTube. And because she said she was so unprofessional, looked dead unprofessional, but they're the videos, because they're so long term now and they're in the algorithms, are where still bring traffic to her and still bring her clients. So she was discussing this with the other guy, and she's saying, oh God, I really want to just delete that. And he was more or less saying, because she says, I looked unprofessional. Some of the things that I said was wrong and all that. And he was laughing and he's saying, I think that's just part of business, some of it, but if it's giving you, still getting you traffic, why would you delete it?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think it depends, and it does depend on your audience. Of course, if you maybe were saying something completely opposite now and realised you'd made big mistakes, you might want to delete some, but yours is different. I think if they're not pins, Janine, I would be making sure you want to have pins on it, because then it doesn't look as if, so what I would be doing is just making sure that you're focusing on pins, right? And yeah, you could create some of the little reels, these new reels that are coming out, you could, but I would be, if I was you, just for search engine reasons, this is just my opinion, I would be going through some of your blogs that you would think are going to be most relevant, right? Most clicks through, and get some pins on them and get them on, right? And even if you just make up a blog, you could have a board about your blogs, or you could have different boards about different subjects.
I think
right?
I did make one. I did make a board blog.
Okay, well, that's fine. So you do that and get that up, but you put what the blog, so don't just put blog, right? Because you're not well known enough. Sometimes, like, so say someone has like 50,000 followers, right? And somebody knows them, their brand, right? They're a well-known brand. They can put just blog and that will work. You would want to put some keywords in relation to what it was. Using another tip, see your your board titles, choose keywords that people would look for. So you're maximizing your SEO and your conversion. Okay. Now, I'm just going to check. I know that I was not tending to, but I just want to see if there was anybody else. No, there's not anybody else that's come on. That's fine, Janine. Anything else before we go? Sorry. Anything else that you wanted to ask about it?
I can't think of
I mean,
anything.
this is my stress coach training one. So again, you can see that it went down. Again, I used to maybe get about 11, 12, sometimes a lot more monthly views. But again, part of it is because I went on, I think, last night or the night before just to save some, because oh my goodness, my feed it's not had anything on for a few months. But I've noticed it's went right down in reach. But I've got some things. So for example, wait to go down the holistic. I've got a group board, and I'll just show you how many pins are on it, just to give you an idea. Where is it? Right, so there's 5,559 pins. Now this does there's loads of people joined this group and shared lots of different things. Only thing I've had a big problem, just because I've again not had time to manage, I've had a lot of people posting crap. It's because the group's been going so long, I think people forget, and then there's people just join the group. I do have lots of rules, and I've got through the years I've got more firmer with people and said no, if they keep breaking the rules. But what that does is it runs itself in a way, because what I've done is, because I've set it up in a way, I've got my Tailwind automatically sends posts to this, right? But also it means that people that once you've got a group set up and you've got a lot of people in it, so I think is it 99 people in that, or I don't know what that means, I can't remember. I think it might be about 99, I can't remember, it looks as if it says 99. But what that means is these people will come on and want to save, but they're obviously going to save some of my pins, right? Now, also what I do is I sometimes would love somebody to share some of my stuff, but some of their stuff might not be aligned with most of my boards, right? And not the topic. So what I do is I have alternate boards that I can share stuff. So I've got odd boards sometimes, but what I do is create that they're for other people. But by doing that, it's like I'm offering a bartering system in some way. I know by offering that, it's giving them something, and then they're more likely to share my content. So there's method in my madness. Okay.
What do you do to invite people?
So what you want to do is always make sure you've got lots of content first on your board, right? Because people won't join unless you've got lots of valuable content. And then all you do is you go and you invite them, Janine. So for example, I could do, right, so you see this add button?
Yeah.
This is one of my boards. I can add, like I've added you obviously, and you can invite people, you can invite them, you look them up, right? Invite collaborators if you know who they are, right? You can look up people and invite them. Or obviously, I don't know if it still does. You used to be able to do it by email. Wait a minute, hold on, I'll tell you now. Invite. Oh, there you go, copy link. So say you had a group, you were running a group, you could put your copy, your link. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. Just so I've got it, I'm going to go into the spiritual marketing one, and I'm going to see if it can actually, I'm just going to my profile actually. See if I can actually invite people in my profile, not just, oh no, this is not a cover image, it's letting you do cover image now. Or let's see, what do we see? I think there's lots of different boards I could invite people in the group to. I think there's a light workers one. Right, so there you go, there you go. Oh, that's somebody else, in fact, that's not it. I'll tell you this a wee tip. I've got one as a light workers, but I don't think it's got that line in front of it. Mine's up there, right? See the first picture that comes up, the wee post. If you look right below the pins and you see people's profile pictures, you'll know by the first picture what one is yours, right? Now, this is actually mine, but it's from another account. So if you know, so my profile has got my it's actually my old logo. I'll need to change that. That's my old logo, right? But if you look at that, the first picture that's coming up is just my face. That's from the Stress Coach training one. That one. So that what I've done, I've actually invited myself over to my other group so that I can swap. Because sometimes when I'm in one account, there is some things that are actually valuable to both accounts.
Yeah.
And it saves me a lot of time, right? Now it's I don't know if that's such a good idea, but I just do it for time. But if you look up here, so I'm just going to click on this thing now, and I'm just going to get the link. So light worker one, right? So I can add here, invite collaborators, and I'm just going to copy that link into the group, into this video. Okay. Right. Workers board on Pinterest. Okay. Oops. I just maybe need to upgrade the rules. Okay, so that gives anybody else that's joining in, it gives them a wee bit of a feel for exactly what I'm doing. Okay, any last questions before I go, Janine?
No, I think so. Okay.
What I would say is, I know that we've been talking about Janine's business as, you know, she's more a creative, right? But don't think just because you're not creative. As I said, lots of you would be, if you just like, I'm just going to show you something. So let's look up spiritual. Right. Now that's pins, my pins, I want to be all pins, so that's other people's stuff, right? Now you can see the mass amounts of, it's just never ending, by the way, right? There is so many different things. There's lots of stuff for the star seeds, synchronicity, Akashic records, angels, crystals, so much. And, you know, everyone looks at spirituality and different, and everyone understands things different and sees things differently and feels it differently, right? So there's stuff for everybody, right? You know, some people are in moon cycles, some people are not, some people, you know, look at when, you know, if you think about spiritual seekers are so many different, you know, some people are more spiritual explorers who want to be up in the universe, and they're more, you know, they're very drawn to the starseed stuff, the Pleiadians, Turian, that type of thing. And there's many other people who are more into Buddhism and things like that. And then there's other people who are more into guides and, you know, what they see and they feel around them. Everybody's different. And we've always got to remember that and understand our audience. And the more that we create boards that are aligned with our audience and how our audience, you know, look at things, the more likely you will attract your ideal client. Okay. So I hope you found that helpful, Janine.
Yes, thank you so much.
And
Yeah, you did.
no, you're very welcome. And it's just a key thing is just, you know, and the great thing about Pinterest, you can have fun with Pinterest. So, you know, it's, you can save lots of ideas. Also, meant to say, you can actually have boards that are hidden from everybody else. So if I'm doing projects and say I have a client that I'm working on the brand with them, and they want to share ideas with me, but they don't want everybody to see their brand. You know, they're not wanting everyone to know what ideas they've got for the brand. You can basically lock it down, and it means only you and that person can see it. Okay. So
Brilliant.
enjoy the rest of your day, Janine. And for anyone that's watching, I hope you find this beneficial. Bye-bye.
Thank you.